Hi there guys, got a video here for you today on the Kalibrgun Cricket 2 Tactical, and what we're going to be doing in this one is giving you our thoughts on the rifle after about 2 months of ownership. So obviously we've been doing a few mods on the channel and I think we've come to the end of the road for the Cricket 2. It's an absolutely fantastic rifle, nice and consistent and nice and accurate, and overall the rifle's really nice to use and to shoot. So for an out-of-the-box rifle, I was really quite impressed. It was nice and accurate straight out of the box, and whilst we did have one or two little niggly issues with the rifle, we soon sorted those out pretty quickly. And the first thing we did was strip the rifle down and then rebuild it. In the rebuild process, we did make one or two minor changes to the rifle, the first of which was changing out the hammer for a longer, lighter one, as well as changing the spring out for a shorter, heavier one. This little combination worked out to give us a few extra shots, as well as making the rifle a little nicer to shoot. The longer hammer shortened the lock time and made the action a little snappier. Before we did the modification, from a 200 bar fill we was getting around 250 shots, and that was obviously at sub 12 power levels. After the modifications with the lighter hammer and the stronger spring, we bumped that up to around 300. The next thing we wanted to tackle was the regulator. So in the disassembly we noticed that the adjuster screw for the regulator was made out of Delrin, and that's something I wasn't a fan of. Now we did give a full explanation as to why we did this in our regulator video, so if you're interested in more detail you can take a look at that, but to cut a long story short, my theory was that the regulator adjuster screw was deforming under pressure and giving us an inconsistent set point for the regulator. Luckily it was a nice easy job to remake it out of brass, and in the video we used a peak tip for the sealing surface of the adjuster screw, although after a little experimentation I found that at lower pressures a Delrin sealing surface worked a lot better. So in the video it was peak, but we did change that out off camera to a Delrin one. With that all done, the last thing I wanted to change was the shroud. So we decided to go for an eccentric shroud, and the main goal of this little project was to make it nice and quiet whilst keeping the rifle nice and short. We did do a full video on making the shroud, so if you're interested in that, just search the channel, I'm sure you'll find it. With the eccentric shroud, we kept the overall length of the rifle the same. For a comparison, it's probably as quiet as the original shroud and an additional moderator. So plenty quiet, and it certainly didn't affect the accuracy of the rifle. Next up we'll look at some chrono results. So here you can see the rifle being shot over my Cadwell chronograph. The pellets that we're using in the video are JSB heavies, 177 caliber obviously, so the pellet weight is 10.34 grains. The pellets that we're using in the video are also 5.1 head size. Now I've found these particular pellets to travel about 5 to 10 feet per second faster than their 5.2 head size counterparts. The pellets straight out of the tin are nice and clean, and as you can see there it's nice and consistent over the chrono. So with these pellets it's running high 11s, although with a standard pellet and a standard JSB heavy, it's running about mid 11s. The rifle was given about 3 to 5 seconds between each shot, just to allow everything to settle down nicely, and between 3 and 5 seconds is my usual shooting pace. So not super fast, but not super slow either. And I think the final results speak for themselves. A 7 spread over 28 shots, so 2 magazines, with a nice low standard deviation. Lastly, we'll get a good overview look at the rifle and I'll give you my final thoughts on it. First up, we've put the rifle in a nice hard Negrini case with the sub 12 air gunners and the Kalibrgun logos stenciled on the front there. If we open the box, we've got the rifle obviously and then a few other bits and pieces. Now I did want to get some shooting footage of the rifle down the range, but unfortunately the range was pretty full and I didn't want to take the risk of someone accidentally shooting my camera. So unfortunately no shooting footage, but we did get a nice target card done. But we'll get the rifle out and I'll share my final thoughts on it. Overall, I am really impressed with the little Cricket 2. I think it makes a fantastic rifle. Out of the box, it proved to be a fantastic little rifle, and with a few extra minor upgrades to it, I think we've managed to make it our own and make some nice improvements to it. I think the main selling points of this rifle for me personally are the CZ barrel and the overall construction. Everything on the rifle is built solidly and built to last. You could argue that the back section of the rifle, where the magazine indexing takes place, is a little complicated, but having a good look at it and understanding how it works, unless you actively go in there and try and break it, I don't think it will break under normal circumstances. There's no tiny little pins to shear off, and there's nothing really in the back here that can go wrong. But in the time I've had the rifle, I've probably put around 10 to 20,000 pellets or dry fires through the rifle, and I haven't had a single issue with the magazine or the back section. Apart from that, the only minor gripe I have with the rifle is the construction of the regulator adjuster screw. But I can quite honestly say that that's the only real negative or downside of the rifle I can see from it straight out of the box. So the question would be, would I buy another Cricket 2 Tactical? And the answer to that is a wholehearted yes. I really have grown to like the rifle, and I'm actually looking at the other Kalibrguns in the range, and we probably will be revisiting the Kalibrgun brand in the near future on the channel. The last thing we'll show you is just some range results from the rifle. So all of these groups here are 5-shot groups done at 50 yards. The pellets we were using were 177 GSB short pellets, and as you can see here we've got some really nice tight little groups, and I'm really happy with how the rifle's performed. Obviously this is a hunting style bullpup rifle, so it's not going to produce target rifle groups. Although having said that, if we take a pair of calipers, measure across one of the groups there, it's probably at a 10mm edge to edge group, so 177 pellet, that would be a 5.5mm centre to centre group there. So the Kalibrgun definitely gets a thumbs up from me. Right then guys, that's pretty much going to do it for this video. This particular rifle has already been sold, and we will be moving on to our next one very shortly. The next rifle on the channel is probably going to be either an R12 or an FX Pantera, although if you want to see a different rifle or have got an interest in a different rifle, leave it in the comments down below and we might get round to it at some point. But for now guys, that's about going to do it for this video, so thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next one.